branches HA. So we can configure active passive HA or you can configure the active HA. So in the active passive HA, what is going to happen? So both the devices will try to advertise the LAN networks to the controllers. At any point of time, one branch will be used to forward the traffic. Okay. So when it comes to the active, so both the devices, so with the help of the redundant pair, we are going to achieve the active scenario. Both the devices will advertise the LAN routes towards the controller, and so both the devices will be used to forward the traffic. That's nothing but the active HA. Okay. So the active passive HA, so we can achieve with we can achieve with the two variants, active with help of single variant, redundant pair. Okay. Let's try to understand the active passive HA first. So without no paired device. Okay. So no paired device. Okay. What is going to happen here? In the active passive HA, so we are going to deploy two gateways or two CPEs here. So we'll be deploying the two CPEs. Okay, two CPEs, so will be acting like a individual boxes. Both the CPEs, so will be acting like a individual boxes. Okay, so each site is deployed as a branch, so that is connected to the same LAN segment. So both the branches will be establishing a control plane channel towards the controller, and both the branches will advertise the same LAN towards the controllers. Okay, so both the branches, what they try to do is they are going to advertise the same LAN network towards the controllers. Now, so in this example where there is no relation between the devices, they are not at all part of cluster. So we are trying to onboard the devices as individual boxes. So the branch CP01 will update its routes towards the controller 1. CP02 will advertise routes towards the controller 1. Now we are relying on the controller, or in fact, we are relying on the BGP process in order to achieve the active passive. Okay. What is going to happen here in the BGP process? Now CP01 has updated its routes towards the VC1, CP02 has updated the routes towards the CP1. Now the BGP route selection process will select one active BGP route. One active BGP route. Now this active BGP route will be updated to the remote branches. Only the active BGP route will be updated to the remote branches. Now in order to reach the remote branches, the branch will have only one tunnel. Okay, so it will be always forwarding the traffic towards the active gateway. Okay. So here what we are trying to do is, so we'll try to deploy the devices as individual devices. So both the devices will have their own control plane towards the controller. Both the devices will start advertising the routes towards the controller. Now the controller will select one of the best route, so for the BGP, and it tries to advertise the best active route towards the remote branches. Okay, right. So the moment the active device goes down, what will happen? So the BGP route selection process will make sure that route is down, and the next possible route will be going to the active state. So immediately that next route, the active route, will be updated to the other branches. Okay. Right. So coming to this, so branches do not synchronize the sessions. For example, there is some traffic which is going to the active device. Only this gateway will be responsible to process the traffic which is going to the remote branches. The moment this device goes down, the traffic, whatever it has to be shifted to the backup gateway. So the existing sessions will be considered as a new sessions here, because the sessions are not synchronized between the branches. Okay. This is the first type of implementation. So the active passive, so without paired device. So we are relying on the BGP process in order to select the best route, and the best route will be advertised to the remote branches. Okay. Right. So now, as we are relying on the BGP process, we have a total control. Okay. So which router to be made as a primary device? Okay. So if I want this device as a primary device, what we try to do? We'll try to advertise the BGP community. Sorry, we'll try to tweak the BGP protocol to make sure that this acts as a primary gateway. So this acts as a secondary gateway. Okay. So to be precise, so we are relying on the BGP protocol in order to achieve this redundancy. When it comes to the second type of implementation, which is nothing but the inter-chassis. So this is like a constructing the cluster. This is like constructing the cluster. Okay, again, this is going to be the active passive. So we are going to configure the inter-chassis. Okay, what we'll try to do is, so we are going to create a relation between branches. Okay, so let's say this is my CP01, CP02. So we'll go ahead and we'll try to create a relation between these two devices. Okay, so there is a control link that is going to happen between these appliances. So through the help of this control link, they are going to exchange the sessions information. They are going to exchange the probing. Okay, so whether the active device is up or down or the backup device health, all this information will be exchanged with help of this control link. Okay, right. So now what is going to happen here? The branches will be deployed as individual devices. Then we'll go to the each and every device and we are going to enable this inter-chassis configuration. Okay. So we'll try to enable the inter-chassis configuration at the branches. So typically, if you want to make some changes to the branches, what we try to do? Making the changes related to the high availability settings. Okay. Now with the help of this type of implementation, inter-chassis implementation, what we are trying to achieve, so the devices will try to synchronize the states. So the active sessions which are copied, so which are going to be occupied for the first device, so will be copied to the backup device. Now in case of a primary going down, what is going to happen? So the traffic will be shifted to the secondaries without any service interruption. Okay, without any service interruption. So we are going to switch the traffic from primary to the backup. Right, whenever we are trying to go with this inter-chassis communication, so we are going to configure the link between these two branches. Now, what about this link? So will it be a physical link or will it be a overlay communication? So you can achieve it both the ways. Okay, so you wanted to make a physical connection between the branches, so that's available. Or so you wanted to use the overlay IP addresses in order to establish a communication, so that is also possible. Right, so how do you perform this inter-chassis configuration? By going to this, by going to the template, configuration, template name, select the others, under the others system, under the system high availability, so click on editing the availability settings. Here we are going to mention the inter-chassis availability, what is the local parameters, what is the remote parameters. So we are going to mention, so these two actually. So what is the local IP address? So and then what is the remote IP address? So in the local, we are going to mention what is a control IP address, what is a remote control IP address. Okay, so this control IP addresses will be used in order to exchange the probes and as well as the health related information. The data IP address, whatever the data IP address we are trying to use it, so it will be used in order to exchange the RTOs. RTOs, which includes your session table updates. Okay. So the control IP address on the local side, the remote side, so the data IP address on the local side and then remote side. Okay, so if required, you can enable the BFDs as well. So with the help of these BFDs, so we are going to enable the faster detection mechanism. Okay, so we'll try to mention under which routing instances the control IP address and then data IP addresses are belongs to. We are going to mention the routing instances information here. Okay. So we have to do it on both the templates. So on both the peers, so we are going to configure these settings. So what is the local IP address and the remote IP addresses? So which device has to be master? So you can mention that preferred master information. Okay. So then you wanted to go with and you wanted to track the interfaces, track the VRRP, track the routing peers. So you are good to do that. So if you wanted to trigger a failover, so you can make use of the monitoring interface or monitoring a VRRP group, either LAN side or the WAN side, or monitoring a routing peer. Okay. So with help of any of these three attributes, you can trigger a failure. Okay. So here you can mention the HA interfaces, the interfaces which you are trying to monitor. Either it could be the WAN interfaces or it could be the LAN interfaces, even it could be the sub interfaces as well. So the HA tracking interface will just verify the state of that interfaces, whether the interface is up or down state. When it comes to the VRRP group, so the interface, so which is going to be part of the VRRP, So we are going to select that. So within this, so the VRRP group states, so we'll try to monitor it. Okay, what is the state of the VRRP? So is it a master or then so standby? So whenever, so there is a shift in the so state from master to the backup. So immediately I wanted to change the complete failover to the other device. Or you can think about the routing peers as well. So tracking the BGP peerings or tracking the IBGP neighbor states. So even you can go ahead and you can select. So on which routing instance, what is the protocol you're trying to monitor? So what is the routing peers we are trying to monitor? You can trigger a failover with help of these three attributes. So HA interfaces or the VRRP groups or with help of routing peers. Then we'll try to go ahead and configure the switchover policies. So when do you want to switch over? Then you have a granular selection. So we'll try to mention the interface count or the routing peer count or the VRRP group count. Okay, so at least one of the value is going to be changed. You wanted to trigger a failover, that's possible. You select the selection criteria and you select the actions like switchover. Right, so this is
So Hari,
yeah.
If I have a L3 device, which is a non-SD
Mhm.
SD-WAN device, which is connected to two different SD-WAN router. So if I want to add a route into the non-SD-WAN device, so which will be the next stop address?
Yeah, the router IP address, right?
Yeah, but both the LAN router IP address is a different to both the router, right? SD-WAN router, LAN route, LAN VRF IP address.
This one. So this is your actual LAN 1 and then LAN 2. This is your LAN VR, right? Is this
Mhm.
your scenario, Prakash?
No, no. So we have a two router and one switch where both the routers are connected. So that switch is a L3 device. So
Okay. Right.
if I
Let's say
want to reach any destination, if I want to add a static route in the L3 switch, so which will be the next of IP address? Is it router one, router two? There will be the virtual IP address, right?
no, you're talking about this type of scenario only, right? LAN 1 is connected to both R1, R2. LAN 2 is connected to R1 and R2. How you are going to configure it on LAN VR, right? This is what you.
No, I believe there are two SD-WAN routers, and below that
Yeah,
there is
two.
a Cisco router.
Okay, okay. You're talking about the
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
CP01 and then CP02.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
and
Two
now
router.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Below
So
there is one switch, right?
okay,
Suppose.
in this router R1, what is going to be the next stop? Now you
yes,
quickly said. So we are talking about the redundancy between the CP01 and CP02.
Yeah, yeah,
So now what will be at the land side? How you decide the traffic has to be forwarded to the CP01 or CP02? You have two
yeah.
mechanisms. One is at the land side, we are going to configure the VRRP, and the next stop is nothing but the virtual IP address.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
So this we can configure. This is one option. What about the second option? Dynamic routing protocol. So if you
yeah,
don't
yeah.
want to learn the VRRP, let's try to learn the OSPF between R1, CP01, and then so R1, CP02.
Yeah.
If I want to make this router as an active route, I'll try to mention less cost here than this route.
Can you show the VRRP slide
Yeah, we are
in
going to
your?
talk about it. We are going to talk about
Okay, 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 okay.
it. So this is about the active passive. Okay, so we are yet to cover that land side redundancy. So we'll be talking about that, Prakash. Just hold on for some time. Okay. Now,
Okay.
so when it comes to the active passive, now let's assume that this is an MPLS link. So this is the internet link. Okay, at the hub side, I have both MPLS and internet link. Okay, assume that this is my branch. This is my CP1. This is my CP2. Okay, so I have a connectivity. So only towards this CP0, CP2, I have a connectivity only towards the MPLS and internet. Okay. Now assume there is a branch, so 02, so there's a branch, so 03. Okay. So at the land side, what we have mentioned is, so the active device is C1. The active device is C1. The traffic comes to the C1. In order to reach hub, I have MPLS connectivity. I'll try to forward the traffic towards the hub. That is well and good. What if I want to have a connectivity towards the branch 02 and then branch 03? So branch 02 and branch 03, I want to have a connectivity. So if the active device is C1, how can I reach to branch 02 and then branch 03? Okay, is there a direct reachability from branch? I mean, let's assume that, so this is branch 01. Okay, branch 01 to branch 02, I want to have a connectivity. Will it be possible with help of C1? No, not at all. Okay, so if I reach towards the CP02, what is going to happen? I can talk to the hub or I can talk to the other branches as well, because I have the transports which is supporting to the branches. Okay, so it's not mandatory, but as per the active passive design, what we are going to have is, so we'll try to make sure that we'll have the common transports across both these devices. Okay, across both the devices, we have the common transports. So if you directly terminate the links on the CPEs, what is going to happen? So there is a mismatch here. So at C2, we have both MPLS and internet. So we are able to reach to every location. But at C1, we just have MPLS terminated. What about the branches talking towards internet? Okay. So when we are going with active passive implementation, so we need to make sure that, so we have the common transports across both the devices. Okay. Right. So when it comes to the solutions, so there are workarounds. So if you don't have a common transports, how are we going to try to do that? Let's try to see the workarounds. So that's a little later, but if you're directly terminating your WAN circuits, okay, what is going to happen? So in the active passive, we need to make sure that, so they have a common transport. Okay. Now, how many locations? So we are going to have the multiple transports. More often, like let's say at this location, okay, at one branch, so I'm receiving one MPLS link and one internet link. So this is my MPLS link, this is my internet link. Okay. So if you want to have a communication, for example, there are certain branches which are connected to only via MPLS. Like let's say this is my branch 2, branch 03. There are certain branches which are connected only via internet. Only via internet. Okay, how are we going to achieve the communication? Okay, let's say, so this is my CP01, this is my CP02. Okay, so the CP01 is active device, CP02 is a passive device. So from the LAN perspective. From the LAN perspective, so this is my active, this is my passive device. Okay, the traffic comes to the active device, so it does not have a transport. So in order to reach branch 04, so the branch 04 is not able to communicate. Same case, so if the active device is CP02, it cannot communicate with the branch 03 and 02. Okay, so we can think about active passive implementation. What we can do is, we can create a physical connection back to back. Okay, so in the active passive, we are going to mention the redundant pair. We are going to mention the redundant pair. Okay, when we try to mention the redundant pair, what is going to happen? We are trying to extend, with help of this physical connectivity, we are trying to extend the MPLS circuit towards CP02, the internet circuit towards CP01. The MPLS circuit, so towards CP02, the internet circuit towards CP01. Now these two devices will be part of the redundant pair. Okay. Now in case, so if so the end user wants to talk to the branch 04, the traffic comes to the active device. With help of this CRIS connection, okay, what is going to happen? It uses this link and forwards the traffic towards internet. In case, so if this is acting like active device and so we wanted to talk to the branch 02 and 03, the traffic comes to the CP02 with help of this crisscross connection. So the traffic hits on CP01 with help of these links. So it goes to branch 02 or branch 03. Okay. So this is the third type of HA. So what we call it as an active HA. So that is going to happen with help of the paired device. Okay, that's going to happen with help of the paired device. So here, So the session table, though we have the crisscross connection between the branches, back-to-back connection, the session state is not going to be synchronized between the branch pairs. Okay, it's not going to happen. So there is no synchronization that is going to happen between the branch pairs. Now what will happen? So at the branches side, okay, so what is going to happen? The controller treats both the advertisements as a unique route. The moment we try to mention it as a paired devices, what is going to happen? So they will start exchanging the control plane channel between the controllers, and they try to advertise so all the node advertisements, route advertisements towards the controller. Controller, as it is treating like a unique routes, what is going to happen? So it will start sharing that information across all the other branches. Now the controller has re-advertised all the prefixes towards this branch. What is going to happen? The branch will have, in order to reach a particular destination, the branch will have the two next stops. One is CP01, the other one is CP02. Okay. So now, as it has got the two next stops, so which is received from the controller one. So for the same prefix, so it goes with a BGP route selection, and it considers one of the branch as an active route. One of the branch as an active route. So it tries to use that active route and starts forwarding the traffic. It may forward to the branch in CP01, or it may forward the traffic to the CP02. Okay, it doesn't really matter for us. The reason being, as we have a cross connect here. So for example, if the traffic is coming to this branch and hitting on this branch, so with the help of back-to-back connection, the traffic uses this link and reaches to the CPE, and from here it reaches to the destination. Okay. So while the transmit as well, so if it is going via this device, so it can use this link and forward the traffic via this transport.
There is one question actually.
Yes, yes, please.
Yeah, definitely. If we have such kind of connectivity, then we will be using VRRP in the LAN side. In VRRP, virtual IP will be the single IP. So if there is a VIP, then how these two devices can be distributed?
There is at the LAN side, you don't need to really think about it, right? Okay, so as we have the VIP IP address, the traffic may reach to this device, or the traffic may reach to this device.
Because VIP is same.
No,
VIP.
it's not the same, right? See, the physical IP addresses is different. The
Yes.
VIP is going to be the same.
Yes.
At the LAN side, whichever is the master, that master will hold the virtual IP address. Simultaneously, both the devices will not hold the virtual IP address, right? It's not possible in VRR. At any point of time, only one device will hold the virtual IP address.
So in that case, because we have another transport VR on,
yes,
on the another device, so that transport VR will not come into the picture. Like on the second device, we have internet transport VR.
No.
So in that case, we won't be able to communicate branches connected via internet anyway.
No. This is using this link. That is the significance of paired device, Deepak. Okay, let's assume this. Okay, on this branch, I'm connecting MPLS. On this branch, I'm connecting internet. Okay, let's assume that all my closed environment, I can reach via MPLS. In order to have internet, I need to go with this internet link. Okay, now this user wants to access Google. He wants to access internet services. So because of VRRP, so the VRRP, we are running a virtual IP address. So this device is active device. Okay, so let's say this is my secondary device. This is my master. So this is my standby related to the VRRP. So because of this, switch will try to forward the traffic to the master device. Now master will try to verify what is the destination IP address. Okay, destination IP address is Google's IP address. Now how do I reach to the Google IP address? I'm going to have one more transport, extended transport, right? So the moment we try to make it as a paired device, the transports are going to be extended now. Here you are going to find MPLS transport. Here we are going to find internet transport. Here you are going to find the MPLS transport and then internet transport. Now at the LAN side, the next stop is internet transport VR. The traffic comes to the internet transport VR. From here, it reaches to the remote side transport VR, and from here it reaches to the internet. Okay. You got it, Deepak?
Yeah.
Hari, will there be a separate PTVI? Say, example, if both of these are transports and the other branches are also having the same MPLS and internet transport,
Yes,
say from the CPE1 perspective, uh, there will be a PTVI tunnel from the CPE1 via MPLS to the branch to MPLS circuit, right? Similar way, will there be another tunnel via the internet link to the other branch?
Vignesh, I mean, the overlay tunnel is not at all depend on the underlay transport, right? But I mean,
Correct.
so you can think in this way actually. Now we have this branch. So that's a very good point you raised, Vignesh. Okay, assume that it has only the MPLS link, and this has only the internet link. Okay, so this is my MPLS link. This is my internet link. Okay, at the hub side, what is happening? I have both the circuits. Just for
Well,
example,
it is only one router with, yeah, correct. Yeah. So in this scenario, will there be from CP1 router of the branch, will there be two tunnels to the hub? And then from CP2, there is two tunnels, or how it is, tunnels?
and first of all, it is not really depend upon the transport. Okay, so at any point of the time, the tunnels will be presented if and only if I have the common transport domain. Okay, from CP01, there is a tunnel towards the hub. From CP02, there is a tunnel towards the hub. Okay, now in order to establish the communication between these tunnels, how the actual traffic goes through, how many underlay connectivity I have it. From CP01, I can go to this MPLS one path. This is one path. From CP01, it can go to transit, and from here it can go to the internet. This is another path. If I go and verify
The other side is you're mentioning a controller, or it is a other hub, right? Data.
is a hub or it is a controller. Anyways, it's the same. The tunnel communication is going to be the same. Okay.
When you say tunnel, you're mentioning about the data tunnel, right?
Yeah, I mean, see, either you talk about a VXLAN tunnel or you talk about ESP tunnel or control plane tunnels, data plane tunnels. This is going to be applicable.
Okay.
Okay. See, the tunnels gets created if you have the common transport domain. From CP01 perspective, yes, it has a common transport domain via MPLS. And it has a common transport domain if I go with this circuit. Okay. From CP01, in order to reach the hub, it has got the two SD-WAN paths. One is directly connected MPLS. The other one is with help of this crisscross and going towards this internet. It has going.
So this is my question here. So since you are extending that internet transport VR from CP2 to CP1, that doesn't make CP1 logically available in internet VR also, internet transport VR. That doesn't make another tunnel from CP1 directly.
And we already discussed about it. Irrespective of underlay connectivity, it's always one set of tunnels, right?
Okay.
Okay, it's always one set of tunnels. Here, so in between the branches, branch 1, branch 2, I may have, so for example, two MPLS links, two internet links. How many tunnels you're going to be having between branch 1 and branch 2? It's always a single set of tunnels.
Okay.
WAN transports will be used as a just to transport connectivity. Okay. Now, so for your understanding, actually, there is a tunnel between CP01 and then hub. What will happen if MPLS link is down? Will there be a complete loss from CP01 to hub? Will it be going to happen like this? No. It uses this cross connect. From here, it reaches towards the internet. Okay. Either if this link goes down or if this link goes down, then there is a complete breakout from CP01 to hub.
Understood. Yeah.
So tunnel will be the one-to-one relationship between the device.
Yes, yes. So it's always one-to-one tunnels.
So if we have a two hub and two branches, then there will be four tunnel.
Yes, yes, Prakash. Right. So now, so
Hari.
Yes, yes.
Even when it is in paired mode, and even when we have MPLS and ILL on two CPs, the traffic which is going from a single CP via MPLS will return via MPLS, no? Or it can come through the internet as well.
Yes, yes, perfectly fine. So you can go with the internet as well.
I don't want I want symmetric routing. I don't want any asymmetric things to be created. I can control that.
Yeah, you can control with the help of SD-WAN policy.
SD-WAN policies.
By
Okay.
default, asymmetric is allowed. If you wanted to control it, you can control with the help of SD-WAN policy.
Policies. Okay.
In the LAN side,
when you say SD-WAN policy, we have to match based on the IP prefix or based on the application to send via only particular transport, is it?
Even with the help of the site IDs as well, you can do it. For example, between these branches only, between branch 1, branch 2, I want to always have the symmetric forwarding. You can even match with the site ID.
So when you say it's going to be symmetric, how the other box, because say let's just assume that in B1 branch 1 we have a user machine sitting, and in the hub side we have a common internet breakout somewhere. Okay, so customer has a common internet breakout. So when the traffic goes out, right, the router is not maintaining a session table like a firewall, or is it maintaining?
Yes. So now when it comes to the communication part here, okay, so here the communication is always happening. Whenever you talk about the SD-WAN communication, it is happening on the overlays.
Correct.
There is no real significance for the underlays. Underlays will be used as a transport. Okay, underlays will be used as a transport. Okay, the communication gets terminated on the overlay IP addresses, right? Yes, of course, there is a session between this IP addresses to this IP addresses. Okay, so this overlay IP addresses. So it will just provide the within the session table. At that moment, it is going to provide which WAN transport it is using. At that particular moment, which transport it is going to use it. See now, so as the tunnel session is terminated from overlay to overlay IP address, imagine the tunnel is constructed. It is using MPLS connectivity to forward the traffic. While the traffic is returning, if it is coming from the internet, will that really impact something on this branch?
No, it is not going to impact, but I have seen scenarios where customer specific is so specific about the return traffic. Say example, when we have MPLS plus internet, right? When we have both MPLS or both internet, it doesn't matter that much. But when we have scenarios with MPLS plus internet, people tend to ask symmetric flow via MPLS and separately via internet for specific applications.
Yes.
And also to add, Hari, there are scenarios when you are including security features like NGFW or UTM features. There is asymmetricity will lead to policy issues, because we'll create a policy on MPLS or an internet. Do not want the traffic to come via different transport.
Of course.
So that might create issues.
The moment we think about some applications, right? I mean, so as we are extending our support up to the L7, yes, there is a chance of certain applications, especially VoIP applications, there is a chance that the symmetric is mandatory. Okay, then we can go ahead to up to the application level and we can enable the symmetric forwarding. But so when it comes to the NGFW as well, see this underlay, the connections always get terminated on the overlay communications. Underlay, the moment the traffic is connecting on the underlay, the packets gets decapsulated here itself.
Hari, I understand your point. I just want to understand here. I can understand that when we write a SD-WAN policy, we can make sure that the traffic is symmetric via MPLS transport, correct?
Yes.
So how we are achieving it? Are we maintaining a session table to monitor that this return packet belongs to this session? So I have to send, earlier I received it via MPLS, so I have to send it via MPLS. How we are maintaining that? How the hub will return the traffic via MPLS?
Yes. So see what is going to happen. So within the session table, it is going to maintain that information, so which transport it has to use it. So this transport will be consistent for that particular session. The reason here is, for the first time, the packet is going to the SD-WAN policies, verifies that what is applicable for this SD-WAN policies. It is telling that for this particular traffic, symmetric session is enabled. So it even informs with help of the VXLAN tunnel. What does it do? The branches will start exchanging the SD-WAN parameters. Okay, the one which is initiating the traffic will trigger that symmetric flag is set for this traffic. Okay, that's the reason the return as well, it is expecting it on MPLS.
Okay. So when the symmetric flag is set and hub receives the traffic and it creates a session entry along with the symmetric flag, so that when the return packet comes, it sends via the MPLS itself, right?
Yes.
Understanding, right?
You are forcing the remote guy to send it via MPLS.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Ankush, you are asking about something, Ankush?
No. I actually got the answer. So yeah, thank you, Vignesh, also for probing this. It was in my mind. Thank you.
Right. So coming to the configuration perspective, so the HA pair, what we try to do here. So this is configured under the workflows. Okay, we are going to mention the name. Under this, we are going to mention the redundant pair. So we'll try to enable this redundant pair option. Okay, so here, so how do you try to do this in HA configuration? Let's say I'm trying to mention the workflow. Workflow template is one. Under this workflow so template one, I'm trying to mention the redundant pair enable. I'm going to mention a name here. So we'll try to mention, so the workflow name is 2. So with help of this, it has created a device template 1, and with help of this, it has created a device template 2. So with help of this, we'll create a device group 1. With help of this, we'll create a device group 2.
Sorry to interrupt. One quick question. So when we have two branches in the site, right? How we are, how we will like avoid in this scenario? How we will avoid receiving routes from say CP1 advertises to controller, and controller should not advertise back to the CP2 of the same site, right? How it is taken care internally?
In
site.
Yes. Okay, so the CP01 is updating towards the VC. Okay, so and then CP02. Okay, so is advertising. The CP01 and then CP02 are the paired sites. So it is advertising every information towards the VC, and as well as it is advertising towards the VC. Okay, you're telling that from VC1 to CP02, how it is getting restricted.
Yeah, so, yeah, correct. Where it is getting restricted and how it have the intelligence that these belongs to the same site and we should not advertise back.
Okay, Vignesh. So I'm not pretty much sure on this part. Okay, so I'll just verify this and I'll confirm you on this part.
Yeah, because you said, right, both will act individual devices, act as individual devices. So someone should be able to identify, right?
Yes.
So if there is any SOO kind of concept here in Versa device,
yeah, site of origin.
What is that, Deepak?
Site of origin concept, which prevents such kind of scenario.
Yeah, but these two are the
because on land we are using MPPGP.
Yeah, these two are the two different devices, Deepak. These will be considered as a unique advertisement. It's not from the same device advertisements, right? Earlier, if they are not the paired devices, it's going to be the site of origin. But now these devices are the unique advertisements.
Yeah, like we can park this question if you want to check. Like we can like
check it.
Yeah, sure.
Right, so coming to the configuration part, so what we try to do is, so we'll create a workflow template 1. So then we'll enable the redundant pair. So we'll go with the workflow template 2. So with the help of workflow template 1, device template 1 is created, device group 1 is created, and with the help of that, we create a CP01. Now, so the workflow template 2, with the help of, so the same workflow template, we just enable the redundant pair. So we get a workflow template 2. With the help of that, device template 2 is created. With the help of that, device group 2 is created. And with the help of that, we are coming up with a CP0. So when it comes to the configuration part, CP01 and then CP02, what is going to happen? So we'll try to mention the LAN side IP addresses. We'll try to mention the WAN side IP addresses. Along with that, we are going to mention the pair ID. So we are going to mention the pair ID. Okay, so we need to make sure that both the devices, they go with the same pair ID. Okay, then only the extension of the WAN circuits are going to happen. Okay, so this pair ID is a string, whatever we configure on CP01. So the same configuration, we are going to do it on CP02 as well. Okay. Right, so while configuring these devices, we are going to mention the same pair ID. So then the extension of the WAN circuits are going to happen. Okay. So if you look at the configuration front, so this is what is going to happen. So I am trying to create a workflow template. So which is nothing but the redundant pair. A is the name of this workflow template. So to this workflow template, I'm mentioning the redundant pair. I've mentioned enable. So I'm mentioning the name to it. Okay, redundant pair B. Now at the LAN side, so if you are running a virtual, so VRRP, so you are going to check this box. So the VRRP box, you are going to enable it. Okay. So if I am trying to run the VRRP at the LAN side, so you can check this box. So the moment you enable the redundant pair, so you enable the VRRP, so what all the changes you are going to notice here. Okay, so the left side, you'll be finding one device port configuration. The right side, you're going to find the redundant device port configuration. Okay, so you're going to have this configuration front. Okay, so the first interface is ETH0, which is a management interface. So the next interface is we are selecting it as a WAN interface on the left side device. On the redundant pair, we are going to select any of the interfaces as the WAN interfaces. So we'll try to mention, so if one interface is connected to internet, so we'll try to mention this WAN interface. If the other interface is connected to MPLS, we are going to mention that MPLS interface. Now these two are the important parameters. Okay, so the moment we select on the left side device, the moment you select it as a cross connect, okay, automatically the right side also we are going to get this cross connect link. Okay, so the left side, so you are going to select the LAN interfaces. So even at the automatically the right side as well, it gets created with the LAN interface. The same LAN interface will be used here. Right, so while deploying the devices, so the moment we try to deploy the workflow templates, you are going to get the two device template. One is the actual name redundant pair A, and the other name what we mentioned for workflow template 2. So these are the two different device templates that automatically got created. Now with the help of these templates, what we try to do, we create the device groups. So while going to the device groups, we are trying to mention what all the device groups you are going to configure. Device group A, device group B. Okay. So then, so coming to the actual configuration. So in the devices, so in the bind data, so if you are running a VRRP, so it will ask what is the LAN IP address and as well as what is the VRRP IP address for this particular LAN. If you are configuring the VRRP, you need to provide the LAN IP address as well as the virtual IP address. Okay. Right. So when it comes to the pair ID, okay, so this is nothing but the pair ID which you have to mention the same value on both the devices. Okay, so this pair ID will be used so in order to extend the WAN circuits. Right, so coming to this, so the extension of the WAN circuits. So you look at the branch A and you look at the branch B. Okay, what is going to happen on the branch A and then branch B? At the branch A, so the actual transport VR is internet VR. At the branch B, the actual transport VR is MPLS VR. Now we have mentioned that there is a cross connect between these two appliances. The moment we mention a cross connect, what is going to happen? The WAN extensions are going to happen. Here, there is a new VR that gets created at the branch B, and there's a new VR which gets created at the branch A. Now, when I go to this branch A and if I see the transports, so you'll find both the transports, internet transport VR as well as the MPLS transport VR. At the branch B as well, so the MPLS transport VR and then internet transport VR. Now, what is going to happen internally? So now let's say, so we have created VNI 0/3 as a cross connect. So if I create a VNI 0/3 as a cross connect, what will happen? It is going to create sub interfaces. So VNI 0/3.1 sub interfaces will be created. So the interface will be placed under the MPLS VR. The interface will be placed under this MPLS VR. Okay, so if I want to have the extension for the internet VR, there is another interface which gets created. So VNI, so 0/2. One interface is placed here, the other interface is placed here. So if I go and verify the MPLS VR here, what is going to happen? There's a default route which is pointing towards the remote side MPLS VR IP address. If I go and verify the internet transport VR, there's a default route which is pointing towards this internet transport VR. Okay. So whenever the traffic hits on this branch LAN VR, if the transport is MPLS, so it will go to the MPLS transport VR. On this MPLS transport VR, the default route is pointing towards the remote side MPLS transport VR. The traffic goes on, so hits on this MPLS transport VR, and from there it reaches towards the destination. Same case here. So for example, there's a user who is trying to access internet. The traffic comes to the LAN VR. From here, internet transport VR. From here, it is a default route which is pointing towards internet transport VR and reaches to the actual destination. Okay. So if I have the multiple transports, for example, branch A is having a broadband 1, MPLS 1. Okay, branch B is having a broadband 2 and MPLS 2. What is going to happen on a branch A if I have a cross connect? Even these two circuits are also comes into this branch A. Even these two circuits are also comes into this branch B. Okay. On a branch A, you have totally 4 WAN transports. On a branch B, you have totally 4 WAN transports. Okay, across these 4 WAN transports, the traffic can be load balanced. So if
it will utilize all 4 the link.
It is going to utilize all the 4 links. Okay, for example, so this is my internet link. So this is my internet link. Okay, so I have a connection so towards the hub. Assume that I have a connection towards the hub. Even hub is also running 2 internet links. Okay, for example, I am doing SD-WAN policies. I mentioned that whichever the link that is having a less latency, let's try to use that link. Okay, maybe at that moment, this link may have the less latency compared to this link. It may even come to this traffic, it may use this broadband, cross connect, and from here it may reach towards the internet. So from this branch perspective, it has got total 4 WAN transports.
So in earlier case, there was an active passive scenario where we have connected the pair link between the device.
Okay.
In that case, what
inter-chassis, there is no extension of this transport VRs. Okay, there is no extension of this transport VRs. Got it? Only in the redundant pair, so you are going to find the extension of this transport VRs.
No, we were talk about active passive scenario.
Yeah, even in the active passive as well. So there is no extension of the transport VRs, right? Only you mention the redundant pair, then only the extension of the transport VRs is going to happen.
Yeah, means what is the difference between them? Means active passive and active active. If we are connecting.
Yeah. So now in case of inter-chassis, for example, so here you are connecting the link. Okay, this is my MPLS, so this is my internet. Okay, so at the LAN side, okay, so you are trying to make this as an active device. The traffic comes to this device, it uses only this transport in order to forward the traffic. Okay, in order to forward the traffic, it uses only this transport. For example, so this is my hub. At the hub, I have both MPLS and then internet. I have both the circuits. One is MPLS circuit, the other one is internet circuit. Okay, so at any point of time, it only uses this MPLS as a transport. Now, if I mention the redundant pair, what is happening in the redundant pair? We have a cross connect here. Okay, so this is MPLS, this is my internet. Okay, this is the actual circuit, this is the actual circuit. Okay, this is my hub.
So traffic will never goes via between these two devices,
yes.
CP1, CP2.
In the inter-chassis, the traffic never goes via these devices.
Harry, one more question.
Yes.
Here, all the time we are comparing MPLS with the internet. Suppose now there are 2 kinds of internet. One is through broadband and one is through lease line. So in that case, what will be the creation of this transport VR?
No. And again, Deepak, these are just the naming conventions. These are just the naming conventions. At any point of time, the branch will try to create the transport VR with whatever the name you are mentioning. Okay, so here I can mention a name like broadband link. Okay, I can mention the name like leased line. That's totally a name. The branch will always verify the transport VRs with a name.
So there will be no use of the active passive case.
In the inter-chassis, you're talking about this, Prakash? In the inter-chassis?
Yes, yeah.
Yes. The advantage of going with this type of implementation is the sessions will be synchronized from active device to passive device.
No, earlier you were giving some workaround in this scenario, active passive scenario. If I want to use from CP1 to CP2, then internet, and then goes to the
Yes.
other
Yes.
branches.
Yes. What is the workaround here? Okay, so this is what you can extend it. Okay, so here I'll go with the VRRP on the. Okay, so I'll go to the VRRP on the WAN circuits as well. Okay, so here I can connect the internet link. Even at the WAN circuits, you can create the VRRP. So we will be avoiding the single point of failure. Earlier, what was happening? Only the directly you're terminating the MPLS link, right? Directly we were terminating the internet link. If this link goes down, so we are completely isolating some branches. So instead of that, even at the WAN side, we can run the VRRP. Okay. Now what is going to happen? If this link goes down, you can track the interface and you can switch the traffic from one link to the other link.
No, you were explain about to utilize of the both the links. The MPLS link is connected to the one device, internet link is connected to the other device. Some of the branches are only reachable via MPLS, and some of the branches are only reachable via internet in active passive scenario. So at that time you were giving some work around that.
We did not discuss about that workaround. We were discussing about the challenge. Now the solution is not only at the LAN side, even at the WAN side, you can create the VRRP. So that we'll be avoiding the single point of failure, and as well as simultaneously we can use both the links.
Yes.
Okay. So so if you have ultimately what we need to do in the active passive, we need to make sure that both the devices are going to have the same transport. How is it possible? With help of the VRRP, we can do that.
Harry, one more question actually, Deepak this here. So you are telling that on WAN side we can also create VRRP. So if that thing is version is specific of Versa Flex VNF or it is applicable for all Versa versions?
Not version specific, Deepak. So you can do it on all the devices.
Okay, I will come back to you one to one because earlier, as I know, it was told to me that VRRP not get supported over the WAN.
Version in the sense, at least 16.1.
That's why I'm asking you if it is dependent on the version basis, or maybe now on the later versions you started to support VRRP on WAN.
At least I can tell that from 16.1 version onwards, this option is enabled. So on WAN circuits as well, you can enable the VRRP.
Okay, on version 6.
In the sense, almost like 3-4 years from now. Okay.
Hari, as per the lab given to us, the single node is assigned to each lab, right? But for HLF, we require the two node.
Yes. So you'll be working like a team, Prakash. Okay, branch 110, 111, branch 112, 113. Okay.
So lab is accordingly, right? For HL.
These two devices will form the HA, these two devices will form the HA, these two devices will form the HA.
Okay.
Right. So now coming to this configuration part, so you could see that. Okay, so VNI 0/2 is a cross connect. So because of that, it has created .1 interface, .2 interfaces. Okay, so the .1 interfaces is placed in MPLS, .2 interfaces which is placed in internet, and they come up with so the reserved IP address 172.16, 255.1 one side, 255.2 another side. Okay. So with the help of these IP addresses, so we are going to have the communication on the cross connect. Coming to the LAN side redundancy, so what is going to happen? So you can make use of the VRRP, or we can make use of the dynamic routing protocol. So with the help of any of these two solutions, so we are able to achieve the redundancy at the LAN side. Okay. So as we know that, so the VRRP, so which goes with the virtual IP address, so almost all the industry standard options on the VRRP. So we have a support on Versa appliances as well. So now we are going to create a yes. Any question?
With the dynamic routing protocol, we can use both the link at the LAN side.
So either of these two solutions, so the VRRP or dynamic routing protocol, so you can achieve the redundancy at the LAN side. Okay. Right. So the device which is acting like a primary, so will try to respond for the ARP messages on the lab. Okay. So then, so over the multicast IP addresses, so they are going to exchange the VRRP messages. Okay, so then the devices which is not responsive, for example, if the primary goes down, so the secondary will take over the primary and it will try to send the GRP messages to the connected LAN devices so that there will be shift in the virtual MAC address. Okay, so there will be shift in the virtual MAC address so that the switch will try to forward from this device to this device. Okay. Right, so in VRRP, so configuration, show VRRP group summary. I can see that on which interface we are trying to run the VRRP, what is the state of the device, whether it is a master or backup, what is the actual IP address on the interfaces, and what is the virtual IP address on the interfaces. Okay, and what is the priority? So more the priority, the device will be selected as a master. Okay, here you could see that what is the priority that is configured. Okay, current so priority that is configured, so you could see that information here. So if you want to track the VRRP interfaces, so you can track the VRRP interfaces. Even IPSLA is also supported on VRRP. So you could make sure that so the master is having priority 200 and the backup is having priority 150. So if you have the multiple interfaces you wanted to track it, so we'll try to make sure the interfaces are running with some weight so that so the cost will be calculated against this priority. So we'll try to make sure that so the calculation goes less than the standby devices, so that there will be a switch from master to backup. So where we go ahead and configure the VRRP. So under the configuration, we've selected one of the 10 template. Under the networking, we got the VRRP. Under this, we got a VRRP groups. Okay, so if you wanted to go ahead and configure some tracking options here, you could go ahead and track the interfaces or the routes, or you can go with the IPSLA as well. Okay. So the interfaces, you could select the interfaces and you could assign the what is the cost associated with that interface. So if you're trying to monitor, so with the help of the IPSLA, so we'll try to go with a name, we'll try to mention the probing, and we'll try to mention what is the destination IP address, what is the source interface that is used in order to monitor this IP address. After selecting the IPSLA, so we'll go ahead and we'll try to bind it to the group. Under the track monitors, we'll try to mention the IPSLA and then provided the cost. So if you wanted to go with the load sharing, how do you go with the VRRP load sharing? We'll try to create the multiple VRRP groups. Okay, group 1 and then group 2. Group 1 will try to make CP01 as primary, or group 2 will try to make CP02 as a primary. So the CP01, so 02 as a backup, and then CP01 as a backup here. Okay, so we'll try to mention multiple groups. So within each and every group, we'll make sure that one branch will be acting as a primary, the other branch will be acting as a secondary. Okay. Now, how do you go with the multiple groups? So with the help of the subnets, so we'll try to go ahead with the multiple groups. So as we are running multiple subnets here, to one of the group, so we'll make so this device as a primary. To other group, we'll try to make this device as a primary. So like what we do on a legacy routers, even you can configure so those options on this devices as well. It is about the HA concepts. So what we try to understand the director HA, the controller HA, and then branches HA.